Greetings, everyone. It's Alaya Ketani, and this is We Are Our Superhero podcast. This podcast series is dedicated to the times in our life when we've had to go beyond limits in order to have life-giving and sometimes life-saving experiences. I'm Alaya Ketani, hypnotherapist, intuitive change agent, trainer for women to actualize the peace, courage, and true empowerment to realize that all is possible in the superhero woman hypnotherapy and mentoring emergence. I'm also a human design coach, certified coach and reader, one of the most powerful tools I know for self-realization. A lot of people also know me as the founder and executive director of the nonprofit Keeping All Women Safe, working for the increased safety, equality, and justice in unjust systems. These podcast episodes will be real, sometimes raw and deep, so take care of yourself if the topic is especially close. May what is shared be a source of great hope and inspiration to you when you need it most. May it free your mind and expand your heart. Be sure to subscribe and follow. And today, my special guest is LaDonna Carey. LaDonna is nearing 4 decades of experience providing both in-person and virtual mental health therapy services. She operates a private practice in Kingsport, Tennessee, offering intensive sessions to betrayed partners and couples focused on serving their immediate need in the betrayal recovery path. LaDonna has also provided and does provide continuing education programs and hosts CEU retreats for psychotherapists. LaDonna is trained in partner trauma therapy and couples therapy modalities. Her workbook, Healing from Betrayal, helps individuals find their self again after betrayal, along with her programs of Who Am I Now and Healing Through the Holidays. Her upcoming book will be released in September, and her blogs can be found on Substack. LaDonna has both professional and personal insight into the topic of betrayal, having experienced this herself. She also trains other therapists in how to ensure that their work with clients does not add more injury with secondary betrayal, which many victims and survivors in our culture regularly experience. Welcome, LaDonna.
Thank you for having me.
You're so
I'm
welcome.
so impressed with all the work that you do. And you're a superhero yourself in there.
I have had this podcast actually is inspired by my own life, because those who even know a little bit know that several times I have experienced catastrophic experiences and had to go beyond limits. And so during those times, sometimes it was just one line that I heard someone say on the TV or the radio that helped me going forward. So this is my hope. This is always my hope in everything I do, that people will realize that there is always a way, there is always hope. There are people who understand and people who will help. And you are one of them. I've come to know you recently. I love you. I call you a friend. I think you're a very wonderful individual and professional, and I'm happy to have you here on the program.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very glad that we connected too. It seems like one of those universe things that we needed to be connected, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit, if you will, about what brought you to this particular focus, what your life was like. Did you grow up in Tennessee? Did you see a model of a healthy relationship and a healthy marriage in your parents? How did you even choose to become a mental health therapist and then to focus on partner betrayal?
You know, going way back, how I wound up being a therapist, I got out of undergrad school, and my undergrad was in criminal justice. So I got offered a job in criminal justice and really had to think about, do I want to do probation and parole for the rest of my life? And I was talking with my mom about it and said, I think I might go to grad school. Because when I graduated, I saw people in grad school that had those big robes that hung down. And I thought, man, I think I want one of those. That's how shallow it was that I decided to go to grad school. But I was talking to Mama about it and said, I really like English and I like psychology too. I like those courses that I took. And in her wisdom, she said, LaDonna, it seems like people have always come to you asking for advice and wanting to know what you think about things. It seems like psychology would be a good route. So my mom sent me on the route of it. Um, and a funny other story about my mom, they said I talked a lot when I was growing up. And my mom used to say, LaDonna, please just be quiet for a minute. Please just be quiet. So one of our jokes through the years was that, what would have happened had I been quiet? I never would have been where it is that I am right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have always lived in Tennessee. I'm close to the Smoky Mountains, about probably 60, 70 miles from Smoky Mountains where Dolly grew up. And I love East Tennessee. It's beautiful. I have deep roots here, and I love to go visit other places. But when I come back home and see the mountains, I know I'm home.
Yeah, those Smoky Mountains, when I was in North Carolina a few years ago, I said, now I understand why people talk about these mountains.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a wonderful feeling and experience to be up there.
Yeah, there's just a
It's,
calmness when I come
yeah,
back home to it.
yeah, yeah. I'm hoping one day I get to visit you out there. That would
Oh,
be,
that'd be awesome.
wouldn't
Yeah,
that be awesome?
yeah.
So, betrayal, secondary betrayal, what's the difference between the two?
Well, betrayal and betrayal trauma is really when you're connected with a person that you feel like is your secure person. I call it your ride or die. You're my person, you have my back, I'm safe with you, we take care of each other. And then you find that this person is living some sort of hidden life, that there's some deception. It can be financial infidelity, it can be drugs and alcohol, it can be sexual infidelity, any sort of thing that's around a deception and a hidden life. And the devastation of, I thought I knew this person, and I'm looking at you and you're still the same person, but I don't know you. That's an attachment wound that I thought we were okay and we are not okay. So that's a primary betrayal. A secondary betrayal is when people that you expected to be there as your support system to do the right thing maybe minimize what that primary betrayal was. People say things like, if you find out that your spouse has been on Ashley Madison or OnlyFans or websites that you never even knew existed, and you're crushed and devastated, and I don't know financially what this is going to mean for me. I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know how my kids are going to be impacted with it. And then you have people say things like, well, didn't you see that coming? Or it takes two to tango. Or, sometimes my clients tell me the therapist says, well, we need to look at what your role may have been in that. So those are forms of secondary betrayal. Church systems, support systems, sometimes want you to forgive and forget, turn the other cheek, be the bigger person. Um, Let them see God through your eyes so that they can become a better person. Those are all examples of secondary betrayal.
So, a couple of questions. First of all, do you include in this category of betrayal with a primary partner when that person who you trusted and felt safe with or thought you were safe with actually turns on you, turns on their partner, either in emotional, um, uh, spiritual, or physical abuse? Is that included under your category? Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
Because when you trust somebody, You trust that they're not going to verbally assault you or physically assault you or slander you in the community. It's a
Right.
very common thing when somebody gets caught for deception that they have, that they do the Darvo, and I need to turn this around and you become the bad person. You hear people say things like, well, you weren't paying attention to me. You were too busy for me. You weren't involved sexually with me. So I had no other option. I had to turn and do this.
Mhm.
And that's a betrayal in and of itself. Yeah,
Right.
because if there are issues that are going on in the relationship, you can discuss those issues. You don't get a hall pass, as the movie is. You don't get a hall pass just to go and live this hidden life so that your needs are met and pretend you're not doing that.
Right. And in today's technological world where it's so easy for people to hit the keyboard, there's countless times that I see on Facebook alone where secondary betrayal is happening. It just happened to me last week when I was posting a post about my training program, the Superhero Woman Training Program, and I had an introduction that was highlighting some of the experiences that I've had, for example, being trapped in a house with a partner who turned violent after I had a serious car crash. And a woman commented, if you were really a superhero, you would have never been in that position, right? This
Oh,
is why people keep it a secret and remain in very harmful circumstances because there's so much ignorance, so much judgment. Now, I've come to the point where, yeah, that hurts a little, mostly because number one, it's coming from a woman, and number two, it's still so ignorant, right?
mhm.
But
Yeah.
when someone comes to a therapist that's supposed to be a safe space, that's supposed to empathize, understand, and professionally help one heal, when a
Mhm.
therapist does that, it is very harmful to
Oh,
the
sure.
individual.
Because you feel like, where else am I going to turn? If my pastor doesn't believe me,
Yeah,
if my therapist is not understanding of the trauma that I'm going through, where else do I turn? And we have to be a place where people turn.
right.
And it's important to remember in the therapist community, all of us aren't trained in the same things. You do things very different than I do. And somebody who is new in the field and they've done individual work, but they've never had any training in couples work, or they've never had any training in trauma treatment. And even betrayal trauma niches down even deeper than just trauma work. It's a specific type of trauma work. So for consumers to know, I need to ask questions about, is this person knowledgeable in the areas that I need? So the more that, and that's part of what I like to do through my blogs and my social media posts, and education about who's a safe therapist for you. What are the questions that you need to ask so that you know when you go in that this person does know about emotional abuse and gaslighting and betrayal trauma, so that they are there to meet you where you are with the issues you're coming in with.
I think that that's very important, and it can also be very difficult. For example, here in the Rogue Valley, for people
Mm-hmm.
to find a licensed mental health therapist is very difficult. There are not enough therapists with openings who take the insurance that people have. And so being able to be that discerning is rarely even possible. I was just speaking with someone the other day who has seen 4 different therapists over the last 3 years. One of them just left the agency, and so she doesn't even know if that individual, that professional was right for her, but the other 3, she didn't feel were right. And I know for myself, I've I've learned through many people, and I haven't always gone to a licensed therapist. I've gone to a particular teacher or lama in Buddhism or whomever, but I have seen, I can think of 2 therapists, 3 therapists that I've seen one did commit secondary betrayal when I was in big trauma in the Boulder floods. And the other two did not, right? The other two, one of them was rather shocked. I remember at one of the stories, he said, give me an example of what you experienced when you were in that horrible situation. I told him the story and he was just clearly shocked. The other one was never shocked. He was a relationship guru to me, and he was direct, and I loved that, and an elder. And so again, being that discerning can be very difficult, especially if you don't have the funds to pay out of pocket. If you have to go through insurance. How is it in your area as far as the availability of therapists?
I can tell you that clients who find me through my website or social media, word of mouth, tell me that it's very difficult to find a therapist who's schooled in betrayal trauma. And that's one reason that I started doing the training that I do, because I thought I want people to have more options. I want there to be more therapists who are able to say, I am trained in betrayal trauma. I understand this. I have knowledge about appropriate treatment for this. And so, I created video packages. I've hosted a retreat to train therapists. I have a book that's coming out that's about betrayal trauma recovery, that I have a parallel program for therapists, so that as the client's working through the book, the therapist can have, these are the therapeutic steps that you need through this chapter, just so we can get resources out there so that more and more people have access. And it is a real issue about insurance and self-pay. Many insurances, we know the crisis that's going on in the insurance world, and we keep getting information about we're going to cut the rates that we're paying you, or we make it more difficult as a clinician to be able to accept insurance. But that puts the client in a very difficult situation too. So part of my goal in teaching clinicians is that all of us who take insurance, we want to be prepared to meet the needs of these folks coming in. We don't want it to be just a specialty topic that only the elite, or the folks who can pay $175 or $300 a session get access to the treatment. We just can't have that, because it really is an epidemic, the betrayal that's going on with the internets, with OnlyFans and Ashley Madison and Cam Girls and all of that that's happening out there. I can't tell you the number of calls I get on a weekly basis of people who are in crisis because they've just had their life turned upside down.
And so you actually chose to focus in on this for particular reasons, yes? You had some personal insight and experience, if you don't mind touching on.
Yeah. We teach what we know.
Right.
I learned that at some point. We teach what we know. And unfortunately, I learned about betrayal trauma in a long-term relationship that I was in. And it, even being a seasoned clinician and a seasoned trauma therapist, I was not ready for the way that my knees buckled underneath me. And I needed help, of somebody just to talk with about this. You don't want to reveal everything to family members and friends. And when it first hits, you don't really know what to do. I talk about it being a life quake, that it's as though you're standing there in your house and everything's fine. Then there's a little rumble, and then the ceiling starts falling in on you. And
shock.
when you're in that mode, you truly are in crisis mode. So you need somebody who's prepared in crisis intervention with
Mhm.
this. Um, Through the years, I also have done critical incident responding. And so I'm trained in psychological first aid and skills for psychological recovery. And part of what I train therapists in is here are the crisis states, here are the things that we know evidence based best practice is what folks need when everything is turned upside down, when the tornadoes rip through or the earthquake has ripped through. So, knowing personally, I needed to reach out to somebody just to have that support during that time. And I saw voids with it, or I saw someone that I did speak with that was not educated to the level of trauma that I was going through at that point. And that's really when I decided I don't want other people to go through this. And I, as one person, cannot reach out and be a clinician to everybody going through this, but I can help train clinicians so that we'll have that network out there.
Right, right. So important. So, what do individuals need when this level of trauma and betrayal or betrayal trauma um, becomes a part of their life? Do they need something different? Let's say, and I just like stopped you from answering that question. So
Go
it's
right
like I
ahead.
always have these complex questions. What do they need if they reach out right when they first find out?
Mm.
And do most people reach out, or do they try to deal with it themselves for a period of time and then reach out? And what's the difference in how the approach is and what specifically that individual would need?
Yeah. People do reach out at different phases, depending on what their circumstances are. Um, some people, their spouses just abandoned them, and that's how they find out, what's going on. Some people, the spouse is still there and they found out, and the spouse is saying, I want to work on it. So, different circumstances bring people into therapy at a different time. But if you think about crisis work and you think about your house being blown up, what you need at that time is somebody to tell you, I've got your back. You need food. You need shelter. You need somebody to help you think through, what do I do next? You That's what we do. It's kind of like what you see the Red Cross going in and doing when things are blowing up. Let me help meet your basic needs here. Let me let you know where support is. Let me explain to you what's happening to you physiologically right now.
Uh-huh. See how
And
that would
here
be
are
very
some
important.
things that you can do to help with that. So, doing some somatic work during that time. It's really important to help people know you're not going crazy right now. This is your body reacting to a huge disruption. Yeah, because if we saw somebody at a car wreck where somebody was hurt, if we saw somebody whose house, and this happened just like a quarter of a mile from my house, a tornado came through, lifted their house up off the foundation and ripped some of it off. We don't have tornadoes in East Tennessee, so that was extremely rare. But nobody went running up and saying, oh, you need to calm down. Everything's going to be fine. This is not that bad. You need to say, what do you need right now? How can I help you right now? You tell me who I can contact for you. Think through who are the people that would be supportive. Where can you stay? Where can you get the resources you need? So that's a first step pretty often for people who are coming in after they've heard this. They don't know, should I be in my house or should I not be in my house? Should I leave? Should I stay? Do I
Sure.
say anything or do I back off and just leave it alone and hope it goes away? So just somebody that is there and understands the impact that they're going through.
A touch point, a steady touch point. where they
Yes.
can know I'm going to see this person again next week. And the next week I have something to hold on to and someone. Yeah.
Yes.
And then that progresses as the experience evolves. And how does that progress? Are you teaching nervous system regulation skills? Are you helping them to discern what they want to do? Are you helping? I mean, I can imagine, especially women, but maybe I'm wrong, blaming themselves, except actually committing secondary betrayal to themselves, right?
Yes. I actually had a lady post a response, I think on Instagram, to I had written, "We don't have to forgive. Forgiveness is not required in order to heal." And she wrote back that she was so glad that I was touching on that because she was her own worst enemy with the programming that she had had all through her life. That even though she was saying, "I don't want to forgive," she was hearing those scripts run, "I have to forgive. This is important for me to do. In order for me to go forward, I have to forgive." And really, in order to go forward, we have to establish some degree of security and safety. We have to have emotional regulation. We have to do discernment work of what do I really want. We have to find our voice in being able to speak of what we want. We have to determine, is the person that we're going to be with willing to do the work to demonstrate that they're trustworthy and that they're remorseful. And that's a long process to do. So there's a lot of complexities with the treatment, and it's not a one size fits all. That's what I tell folks. Yeah, and actually have a quiz that breaks down based on your personality style. What are things that you need in order for your healing? If you're a person that tends to forget and forgive and just move on and push it down and let me run and get busy so I don't have to feel this, you have a different path than someone who says, "Oh my gosh, I must have messed up and I'm going to own all this and I'm going to make changes to fix it." So we have to be able to know individually what our clients need with their healing path so that their attachment wound gets taken care of.
Most certainly. And minimizing the experience, and having this attitude of just forgive no matter what and get over it is actually harmful. And actually, I want to pause right there and continue this conversation on a part 2 episode, because one of our first conversations was about this sticky issue of you can only be free if you forgive. You have to forgive everyone. And so I want to pick up there because I actually do feel that is harmful.
Yeah.
And I want to hear your perspective on that, and also in what ways does that impact people. So just to close off this part 1, how would people find you? How would they find you have a digital workbook? How would people learn more about the betrayal trauma and more? You have website links, which will be posted here, but what can you share about how people can contact you?
Yeah, probably one of the best links will be my link tree because that takes you to my website, my social media post, the Substack post, and any of the products that I have. There'll be links on that. So that's just Linktree, LaDonna Carey. If you want to know more just about the clinical work I do, my website, LaDonnaCarey.com, is a great first place to start.
Great. And I know that your emails have really rich information in them as well. So a lot of people can learn a lot through your emails, your Substack posts, learn a lot. And for people who are interested in learning more about working with me, my website is alchemizechange.com. Alchemize is an ancient process of turning base metal into gold. So we can do that in your life together. To learn more about the nonprofit, Keeping All Women Safe.com, and the training program is alchemizechange.com/our superhero. You can also ask about human design, reading, and coaching through the alchemizechange.com. Thank you, LaDonna. We will see you in part 2, all about the benefit versus the harm of having to forgive someone after a betrayal trauma experience.
Yes,
Stay
I do
tuned,
have a lot to
everybody.
say about that.
Yeah, stay tuned, everybody.